Thank you, Amy. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the session Leadership and People with Developmental Disabilities, Supporting the Journey of Developing Leaders. That journey word is a very important word, isn't it? As Amy said, my name is Dave Duell. My visual description is that I'm an older white male with graying hair and glasses. I'm wearing a dark blue shirt, and my pronouns are he and his. Right now, I'm sitting at my desk in front of a bookshelf with a blurred background. Well, what does community feel like to someone with an intellectual or developmental disability? In community, self-advocates are free to exercise their gifts and pursue their dreams. Participating in leadership roles is especially important. We talk about creating spaces for people with IDD and amplifying their voices. How do we accomplish that in our state councils? That work should include helping people with IDD discover and exercise their gifts and dreams, training them, offering them leadership roles, and I would add, helping them find new leadership opportunities when their council term is over. What are self-advocates looking for in their council participation journey? In their understanding, every council has a culture and a story, although they may not use those exact words. A culture includes how closely members interact with one another and how effectively they serve in a council role to make their contributions. They must fit into that culture, and that may require engagement assistance, like we all need. A story is the individual and group memory held by council members who served together for a time, even lead a role in their state council. It's our privilege as council members and staff to create a context in which they can flourish in their council culture and become part of their council story, because every council has a culture and a story into which they must also be included. That's what this session is about, the self-advocate's journey. In this session, we're going to hear from people with developmental disabilities who are dynamic self-advocates and leaders. They will tell us in their own words about their self-advocacy journey, as well as their advice and tips on ways councils can support them by helping them develop their leadership skills. Now it is my privilege to introduce our gifted presenters for this session. In order of presentation, they are Lillian DeJean. It's from Broussard, Louisiana, and currently serves as Louisiana Youth Leader Forum Coordinator. Lillian was the youngest DD Council member in the country, being appointed to a 4-year term at age 15. Extraordinary. She and her colleagues created the Louisiana Youth Leadership Forum, she by chairing the ad hoc committee dedicated to initial planning and development. Our second presenter, Wesley Witherspoon, is the current chairperson of the State Council on Developmental Disabilities in California. Prior to serving as chair, Wesley chaired the council's Employment First Committee. For the past 18 years, Wesley has worked as a consumer advocate at the University of Southern California's University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. Wesley holds a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and has received awards and recognition for his good work. Our third presenter is Tia Nelis. Currently, she serves with TASH in a part-time capacity as a coordinator of self-advocate engagement, which includes work to support the Self-Advocacy Resource and Technical Assistance Center. She previously served TASH as Director of Policy and Advocacy. Ms. Nelis has drawn on her experience as a person with a disability to promote and demonstrate the benefits of empowering people with disabilities to effectively advocate for themselves and their colleagues. She has broad experience conducting training, providing technical assistance, and advocating for progressive public policies. Our fourth presenter, Cindy Bentley, is the Executive Director of People First Wisconsin and a fearless advocate for people with disabilities. She is a survivor who endured institutionalization at Southern Wisconsin Center to go on to become a leader in Wisconsin. Cindy leads other self-advocates across the state of Wisconsin in making our communities more accessible. Presenters, welcome to you all. We are looking forward to hearing about your experience in leadership development, as well as your suggestions for improvement of our state council leadership development efforts. To accomplish this, each presenter will answer 3 questions. These are, number 1, what are the top 2 things that influenced your self-advocacy journey? Question number 2, how would you advise DD councils to better engage people with IDD from all age groups and diverse backgrounds? Lillian, our first presenter's question is slightly different. She will answer the question, what is your advice on how DD councils can better engage younger people with IDD? And the third question is, what tips can you offer DD councils as they support self-advocates and the self-advocacy movement in their state or territory? With that introduction, Lillian, please start us off by sharing your thoughts about these 3 questions.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. Like Dave had mentioned, my name is Lillian DeJean. My pronouns are they and them. I am from Southern Louisiana, and I was the first minor in the country to serve on a DD council. Currently, I am in charge of our Louisiana Youth Leadership Forum, which has been a huge blessing to be able to invest in our youth across the state. And in my free time, I enjoy gardening, crocheting, reading, and drinking much too much coffee. My PowerPoint creation skills are a little bit rusty, so please forgive me. Next slide, please. So the thing that stumped me the most about the 3 questions was the top 2 things that influenced my self-advocacy journey, because it feels like I've lived a lot of lives in only 22 years. And there were so many things that influenced my journey as a young person growing up with a disability. But then it dawned on me that really it was the people who influenced me the most, but specifically the people who really took me seriously and helped me grow, and the individuals who I had to prove myself to over and over and over again in order to be taken seriously. The individuals who really helped me grow the most were adults with disabilities. They invested in me in ways that others couldn't. They taught me that my disability was powerful, and they taught me how to move forward with my head held high in a world that really tried to discount me because of it. But I noticed that whenever I served on our DD council, I was questioned in ways that the parents and professionals never experienced. Whenever I was working along legislators in the governor's office, I had to make sure that I had multiple sources for the facts that I presented when others could pass motions based off of unfounded opinions. There was something about the way that I moved through the world that was inherently questionable. And there was something about the way other people moved through the world that led to a more immediate respect. I point these things out because it's important to understand that sometimes exclusion isn't overt, and sometimes it isn't caused by physical barriers. It can rather be a social mindset. Next slide, please. So when I think about how councils can better engage youth with IDD, I think about evening this playing field. Youth are coming in with inherent disadvantages. They lack the professional credentials that are often used as your one-way ticket to respect in adult spaces. They don't have professional colleagues to socialize with on breaks or to ally with when no one's backing them up in meetings. And usually they aren't literate in legalese yet, which often makes the meeting itself inaccessible. When I served on our DD council, I think a lot of adults were hesitant to engage with me and my ideas because I lacked all of these things. I also think that they were scared of what their peers would think of them. Why engage with the 15-year-old on the council with no colleagues or credentials when you could team with the executive director of our rehab services sitting right next to them? So it was these inherent qualities of being a youth that prevented me from gaining any traction on the council. It was a social mindset about what should and should not garner respect. A key point here is that allowing youth a seat at the table is really a bare minimum. True inclusion is allowing them both a seat and a voice at the table. My primary platform on RDD Council was youth advocacy. Yet an ad hoc committee dedicated to developing a YLF was only formed after my 4-year term on the council, meaning it took me over 4 years of hyper-professionalism as a teenager, a tenure in the governor's office, an entry into college, and having professional colleagues on the council that could back me up in order to get things done. So essentially, I had to become an adult in order to be taken seriously. I had a seat at the table as a youth, but I only gained a true voice as an adult. Next slide, please. Oftentimes, the things that garner respect in our society, shiny titles, professional colleagues, nice education, money, youth, they don't have that yet. So this is where you and your council can redefine credentials and what that means to you guys. Because youth are going to bring a perspective to the table that you need. They're in the school systems actively, they're likely facing prejudice from their peers, and because of these challenges, youth often have ideas on how things could be better. They are your boots on the ground in the school system, and this cannot be understated. Another important thing to note is that they're not biased and constrained in the same ways you are in conceiving of what's possible. As adults, especially adults engaging in policy work, I think our brains get a little bit fried by bureaucracy. And don't worry, I'm guilty of this too. But even outside of state, federal, or legal restrictions, there are things that we feel like we just can't do because it's outside of how we normally do things. This is where you need youth creativity and ingenuity. And sure, there will be some suggestions that you can't implement outright because of legitimate restrictions. But this doesn't mean the suggestion is then irrelevant. Ally with your youth and bridge the gap between their creativity and your knowledge of policy. You each have what the other needs in order to make tangible and meaningful changes, if only you just team. I think this also applies to your council members with intellectual disabilities who may not understand all the nuances of policy yet. They have experiences, challenges, and ideas that can be turned into meaningful policy work if people would just team with them appropriately. I can't tell you how many times an idea from a council member with a disability was shot down because it wasn't possible, and no one stopped to figure out how to make it possible. Next slide, please. One thing that I would recommend is creating an ad hoc committee specifically for youth. I recognize that not all states are allowed to appoint minor council members. My state actually tried to remove me from my DD council because I hadn't filed my tax returns at 15. But a good solution to getting around this is simply creating a youth-centered ad hoc, because this would allow members of the public to serve. Additionally, this would allow youth to be among peers, therefore really and truly evening that playing field. Because let's face it, entering into a council meeting full of professional adults that only seem to speak in alphabets is intimidating as all get out. But if you create this peer-based environment, youth may feel more comfortable actually sharing their challenges and their ideas. This also allows for a space free of legalese. Next slide, please. When we talk about inclusion, I think the barriers that youth with disabilities face overlap with the barriers that adults with disabilities face, even if the cause may be different. People with disabilities may not have a fancy education because of financial or disability-related barriers. Maybe we don't work at high-level organizations yet because we face employment discrimination. Maybe legalese isn't our strong suit, or maybe we didn't show up to the meeting dressed to the nines because our DSW didn't show up on time that morning. But when we speak about inclusion, it's more than just ramps or physical accessibility. It's shifting your understanding of whose ideas are worth listening to, and it's shifting your ideas of what makes a person respectable. One thing that I've heard from multiple organizations within the disability sphere is that there's not a lot of self-advocates who really want to engage in policy work, and this seems to be a reoccurring theme. And so shifting towards how to better engage a self-advocate network on your DD council, if your council is having trouble recruiting self-advocates for policy work, I would encourage you to ask the following questions about your council. Next slide, please. Number one, who is deciding your policy priorities for your council? Self-advocates want to feel heard and respected. If your legislative and policy agendas are primarily informed by parents and professionals, your issue is clear. Specifically, look at the demographics of your input groups. The level of involvement from self-advocates when developing your legislative agendas will be linked to the level of involvement that they have in resulting initiatives. As a person with a disability, I am not interested in participating in an agenda supposedly created for people with disabilities, yet did not include our voices in the development process. Next slide. Are your policy initiatives accessible? When I served on our DD Council, our 5-year plan and other foundational documents were written in dense legalese. When our council members with intellectual disabilities could not participate fully in these conversations as a result, our non-disabled council members started to question them. If the documents would have been put in plain language, though, everyone could have participated fully and these issues could have been avoided. If your documents are inaccessible, your participation will be lacking from your self-advocates. Additionally, inaccessibility sets the tone for everyone in the room on how valuable each person's perspective is. Accessibility leads to inclusion in more ways than just one. And I'm really, really excited that our council is shifting to plain language for all of our foundational documents, which is incredibly, incredibly exciting. Next slide. Are your self-advocates lacking? Oh, can we go to the previous slide again? Yes, I skipped too soon. Thank you. Are your self-advocates lacking basic resources? There might be immediate barriers that prevent your self-advocates from engaging, such as lack of transportation, a shortage of DSWs, etc. When we immediately jump to an individual's lack of wants, we fail to notice the systemic barriers that might be present. Systemic barriers that actually might be bridged through community support. For example, if you have a council member's missing meetings consistently, maybe it's due to transportation issues. And maybe you'll find that this council member can carpool with another council member in their area. By placing the issue within the individual, it strips the community from responsibility. But if we're looking at making the world a more inclusive place for people with disabilities, interdependence has to be a part of that plan. Next slide. Are your self-advocates wanting or needing to engage in something other than policy work? Your people with disabilities may have priorities outside of policy and legislative work. Not every able-bodied person is interested in politics, even if they recognize the importance. The same goes for disabled folk. Just because we're disabled doesn't mean we want to transform ourselves into fiery advocates. And that's not a bad thing. Maybe your people with disabilities are more concerned about social engagements or building community. Maybe they're more concerned about their personal journey to independent living. I mean, there's nothing like having your mom drop you off to places and the people who are supposed to be your peers or colleagues commenting on how cute it is. All of these desires, the need for more socialization, community, independence, are all forms of self-determination, even if they fall outside of what you deem to be important and meaningful work for your council. So turn these concerns and challenges into your policy work. Advocate for better recreational centers, better independent living centers and networks. Oftentimes I've seen when people with disabilities bring up concerns like this and others assume that they just don't understand what's going on in the meeting. But really, they may be pointing out a valuable insight about unrecognized needs in your community. You might be missing something in your community that this person is drawing your attention to. Again, it's really about redefining whose perspectives are worth listening to, even if it's inconvenient and even if it doesn't seem directly relevant to the conversation at hand. Really, I think a lot of the barriers that self-advocates face, whether young or not, can be solved through shifting our understanding of whose perspectives are valuable and shifting our understanding of what listening actually means. And while we are talking about a broader shift in social mindset, a broader shift in what we value as DD councils, it just takes one person to set an example. I remember my first day as a council member at 15. I was scared beyond belief. And afterwards, apparently all the parents and the self-advocates had a tradition of going downstairs to eat and drink together. And it just took one self-advocate to invite me along and to make me feel included in that space. And I will never forget that. And that truly meant everything to me as a self-advocate. So it really just takes that one person to set an example. And so that's all I have for you guys today. I appreciate you listening and sharing your time with me.
Thank you, Lillian. Next, we will hear from Wesley Witherspoon. Wesley?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. And for those in Hawaii, good morning, Alaska, good morning. So, okay, oh, good, my PowerPoint's on. So, thank you for my presentation, how SCDD can work together. I'm the chair of the State Council of Developmental Disabilities. I represent over 600,000 people with intellectual developmental disabilities across California. First, I want to thank my parents and my supervisors at work. I never thought in my wildest dreams I'll be doing this for a national audience. I want to say to families out there that your children can be doing what I'm doing in the future. Self-advocacy is about your choices and things you don't want. There's 7.5 billion people in the world, and every person's different. So, hi, Rich. Hi, people in Alaska. So everybody's different, and people with intellectual disabilities are 3% of the population. In LA County, it's about 10 million people. So just think about LA County representing the whole country. That's people with disabilities, 3% of the US population. And LA County is 3% of the population of the United States. And California is 12% of the population of the whole country. So next slide, please. So as a council person, you can have a vision for the people you serve. Sometimes you can be going to meetings where you're gonna have members of the public could be very upset at you, and even can have your own council members sometimes to be upset with you too. So you have to be able to deal with it, just be calm and just be level-minded. And I heard from my vice chair said, if you have a problem with somebody, just let it rest and think about 2 or 3 days later. So that's advice. And being a leader is the ability to adjust to changes and have a vision for people you serve. So I was chair of the Employment First Committee, and we passed a bill a couple of years ago, stopping sub-minimum wage for people with disabilities, and just have a vision and just know as chairs we can't do everything. And sometimes depending on your location, your budget might be short. So in California, our budget's short about 28 billion. So things happen. So depending on your area, things can happen. Next slide, please. So disability rights bit last month. So this is Maxine Wire. She's my congresswoman to represent my area. Being a self-advocate is important for your life. You inspire others and make a difference in their lives. I want to work to help others become better people. So I'm representing everybody across the country in the U.S. territories, and we just want to make things better for. I want to make things better for. There was a youth that was on. I want to make life better for her than myself. So that's the goal. And just advocate in DC. I went to DC when I was 17, when I was a Close-Up Foundation. I'm alumni, Close-Up Foundation. And I just have an affinity for political things. And like the other person said, politics is not for everybody. So some people are interested, some people are not interested. And just let them know that they have choices. And just know sometimes you can have agreements and disagreements. And just know that when you serve the people, when you counsel. Next slide. So that's a picture of me 6 years old. I started special education when I was 4 years old. I did not talk till I was 4 years old. When I was in kindergarten, I played the swings when the teacher was teaching. I was working myself into performing level where mainstream students could perform. So when I was in special education, my mom believed in me. She taught me a lot of different things. And by time I got to high school, I was able to take mainstream classes. And I just do all these different things for the schools. Now, I've been a star student, was a special education, and I inspired people when I was younger. And next slide. That's me when I get older. That's a picture of me, Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali was very inspirational. And that was in 1982 where I met Muhammad Ali. And that's my brother background. My mom's in the background. When I was 9 years old, I was the only student in class to do all 50 states. And look at me now, I'm talking to all 50 states. So that's next slide. So that's me at 17 years old. When I was 17 years old, I went to high school. I went to different type of schools. I went to had a whole lot of choices. I went with schools that were pretty affluent. I went to schools that had problems. So I could understand each perspective of certain situations. When I was 17, that's where you have challenges as council members. You're gonna have challenges professionally and personally. So you're gonna have challenges. You have to know how to deal with your challenges. Even today, at the age of 51, I still have challenges. I just want to let you guys know that you can deal with them. Next slide. So I went to community college and I took the placement test for English and mathematics. When I started, I did intermediate algebra, then I did remedial English, and I brought my skills to the college level. I'm gonna say to all those people and that take that are special education that you can become a college graduate if you work at it. Just work at things and sacrifice. I remember when I started community college, I felt sorry for myself because I had to do so much work. But my mom said it'll be beneficial to you in the future. So I stopped watching TV and stopped studying. I sacrificed my social life and I studied and graduated, got a degree, an A degree in general studies. Next slide. So when I was 22, after 4 years of El Camino College, I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and it was the very first time I was away from my parents. My mom cried when I left. I didn't know anybody, and I started brand new. So I did volunteer projects. I worked on campus. I got involved with a lot of different projects at the college, and I was vice president of Psychology Human Development Club. I was a community rep for my dormitory, and I took a job at campus dining. And back then, the food wasn't that good, so people didn't like the food. They left college. They left the dorms because the food was so bad in the dormitories. So I got my bachelor's degree after three and a half years. I got BS in psychology. Next slide. So National Association of Developmental Disabilities. So this is a picture of me and Dave right there. So I saw him in Florida last year, and this is a really good picture. And I remember the 95 degrees, and it felt like 110 in Florida. So it was hard to get used to that. All the states and territories, even though we're different areas, we all have the same struggles. With the struggles of inclusion, employment, and there's other things that people just doesn't go through. And we're all together and just collaborating, just talking to each other and saying what's up and saying hi on the holidays. And next slide. So the people in Wisconsin will know who this person is. Ashley, she's a self-advocate. She was a chair of Wisconsin. And I know about Wisconsin well because I have cousins that live in Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is good for cheese, really good cheese. Don't tell anybody, but I like the cheese better in Wisconsin than California. So Wisconsin's a beautiful area, have all these lakes and a lot of dairies. And the cheese curds are really good. I miss them, being in California. And we collaborate, just talk to people, see how they're doing, how their state's doing, and just talk to each other during the holidays because the holidays and birthdays are really important to people. So just know how to communicate with others, have pro-social skills. That's important for your council members, and also important for the members of the public, because some people will not like you, and you just have to smile and just move on to the meeting. Next slide. So this guy right here, he won an award last year, and he met dignitaries across the world: Nelson Mandela, Bill Clinton, Joe Biden. He met a lot of different people, and just collaborate, be open to talking to people, because that's a key to success. It's having a good network. It's good professionally, also personally as well. Next slide. So Alaska, this is Heidi. She was a very inspirational speaker. She spoke 2 years ago, and she was really, really good. And she had her own business, and she has her own family, and she's running for governor of Alaska. And also she's participating in the Miss Alaska, and just collaborate with people, just saying how you doing, and checking in. And that's how the network should go. We should talk to other people. Next slide. So this is the new chair of Alaska. Her name's Jenna, and that's when Maxine Wars and myself, and that was in April. And we just talk to each other to see how you're doing, because we have the same struggles and the same things we're going through. Next slide. So this is Cindy. She's the Washington co-chair of Washington State, and just talk to see how she's doing, and just hope for a pursuit of what she want to pursue. So I want to thank you guys for your time very, very much, and thank you to everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Wesley. I really like that picture of the two of us. Our next presenter is Tia Nelis. Tia?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity for me to be able to speak to you today. My journey through self-advocacy and leadership. Well, when I first started my self-advocacy skills and how to be a part of a leader and to be on a leadership journey, was I didn't have very many role models at that time. So a lot of my trouble was figuring out how to make those things happen on your own. And I think it was very difficult. Now more people with disabilities have a lot of other role models and self-advocates to help them along the journey to be able to find their voice and to speak up. But I think it's also important that people give you opportunities to learn about self-advocacy and to go to conferences and to interact with other people with disabilities at conferences and at other trainings to learn about why it's important to speak up, why it's important to share your dreams and your thoughts, and not to give up. If one person doesn't listen to you, it's really been important in my life. Go to the next person until you get an answer, until somebody listens to you. And so now, I mean, I've had to do a lot of that stuff. A lot of important dreams have come true to be on that, be a part of things, a lot of opportunities. Some of the opportunities that I've had now, because people have supported me and helped me through my self-advocacy career, is going to different presentations in different states and meeting new people, helping other self-advocates use their voice and speak up. Supporting self-advocacy in your at all different levels, many opportunities to be able to do that. And one of the other things that was really important to me is being able to go to college. A lot of people with disabilities out there didn't have those many opportunities to go to college when we graduated from high school. So I had to learn how to advocate for me to be able to go to college because I couldn't pass the SAT, ACT testing scores for college. So I advocated with Syracuse University, and it was called Inclusive U. And I have that opportunity to go to college. And I don't mean by going to college as going there and doing living experiences. I mean going to college and not just learning about life skills, but going to college and having real classes and having a real career. I didn't want to go to college to learn how to make my bed. I can do that anytime I want to. I can learn that from other people. So I had that opportunity. I persuaded them and talking to them about why it was important for me to go to college. And not only did I persuade them to do that, they have never had a person with a disability to go to college online before, or anybody, as a matter of fact, in Syracuse didn't have an online course. So I worked with them. And what was really good about that experience, though, too, was that they thought outside of the box and they believed in me and that we can make this work together. And even though I was in another state and they were in Syracuse at the university, I didn't go to the university because I had a full-time job also. We worked around that. We worked around supports and we made it happen. And then, oh my goodness, COVID happened. And everybody had to go to online teaching online. And it was really interesting because they were asking, oh, how did the person with the disability, how are they going to learn now that it's online? And they said, well, we have somebody who has been doing it online and we could share some things. And yeah, I had the opportunity to teach other people how to teach other students online. And so it didn't only benefit people with disabilities at that moment, then it's benefiting all the students at Syracuse University, inclusive you, to have other students now, even though that they're back in person, to have other students with disabilities have that opportunity to go to school. And if they can't afford to go to Syracuse personally, but to do it online. And I think that those are very important things. So I think the best thing that for my journey was I had people who believed me and encouraged me to, follow my dreams and goals and helped give me opportunities so that I can learn about self-advocacy and about speaking up and why it's important to keep speaking up for what you believe in. As far as councils, I had the great opportunity to be on my Illinois DD Council. And I think there are a couple things. The first important thing that a council could do is listen to people. What's important to the people with disabilities? Um, Not all the time it fits in to what you're doing, but thinking about how they can hear about what you're saying, and not only having people with disabilities be a part of things when you need them, not there to check a box and say, oh yeah, I had disabled people be a part of this, but really working together as a team and talking together, going to each other's events, not just when you need them to be a part of the council to do something, but going to the self-advocacy events that are happening. That shows that you're not only using them to have to be on their boards or committees or what you want them to do. So include them in the very beginning and make those relationships, go to each other's events, not just talk to them when you want them to do something, but build those relationships. Relationships are very important. They're more likely to do things for you and support you when you talk to them about other things and go to each other's events than if you only come to them when you need something. People with disabilities want to be respected just like everybody else and be included. And by doing that is by listening to people. Another thing is also looking at your materials, your board agendas, your packets and all that. How are they written? Are they written in ways that people can understand? Are they made with pictures for somebody who might be able to be on the same page? Including people with disabilities in all parts of your council. Excuse me. All parts of your council work. That means hiring people with disabilities in your council. That also means having them on your council boards in all leadership roles, not just the other leadership committee roles or different things that don't make any sense, or only using them when you need them as a part of something else. But making sure that, like, now there's people with disabilities as chair people of the council, and even starting to step out, and I challenge you to step out a little further, is thinking about hiring a person with a disability as a council director. Really thinking about how they can make that council a lot better, and and including people with disabilities on all parts of your council. And also, when you're doing projects, include us when you want people with disabilities to be a part of things at the very beginning, not just in the middle, or we have this project, oh yeah, now we think we need to include them. No, it's about including them at the very beginning, and making sure that your call for proposals are accessible and easy to read and easy to present to people with disabilities, so that they could maybe be the person who's the lead in that proposal, and to do that, to go for a proposal at the council. And also, we understand that you have to do reporting as a council, but be creative in how the person might report back to you on that project. Because sometimes everything is so difficult that people with disabilities then don't even want to go out for a grant that you're doing or be a part of something, because they can't do some of that work. Offering opportunities for people to be a part of your council and listening to people and really thinking about how to include them is going to make things a lot better. One of the things that I'm really excited about too, that I want to give you this resource that you can check online about. It's called listenandincluderespect.com. You can go, and it's a toolkit about how to include people with intellectual disabilities on projects, in meetings, on boards, on committees, when you're hiring with somebody with a disability. It gives you tips and tools and checklists about how to include us better. And as we say, nothing about us without us. And if you work together as a team, we can make your councils bigger and better and stronger for all, not just with people with disabilities, but for everybody else. Sometimes people say they're making things accessible for people with disabilities, but guess what? It helps everybody. When I was on the council, people were afraid to raise their hand until somebody with a disability raised their hand and said, "We don't understand what you're talking about." Guess what? When they did that, that gave other people the encouragement to say, "Hey, guess what? I don't understand it either. Can you explain it a little better?" Once those people do that. And then the other important thing, I've been on a lot of boards and committees, but if the chairperson of that council, board, or committee role models how to interact with people with disabilities, the rest of your council members are going to follow. If you are the role model, that chairperson, we've done a lot of research, and it shows that if a chairperson of the council, or whatever you call that person, role models how to interact and how to include a person with a disability, the rest of your council members will follow and take your example and take that lead again of how to interact with people and listen, include, and respect us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tia, for your presentation. Our next and final presenter will be Cindy Bentley. Cindy?
Good afternoon. My name is Cindy Bentley. I'm the Executive Director of People First of Wisconsin. I am pleased to be representing People First of Wisconsin and my ED Council in Wisconsin. And so can you just tell me what the question was again? I'm sorry.
Hang on,
Sorry.
we'll take them one at a time. How's that, Cindy?
Yeah.
So the first question is, what are the top 2 things that influenced your self-advocacy journey?
Well, mine started kind of shit. Mine kind of started a little bit. I'll just go back to I was in a state institution down in Union Grove, Wisconsin. I didn't even know about advocacy, but my coach, there was a coach there that I think believed in me. And then I guess I think I started my advocacy at the center a little bit, but my advocacy started out I was about 26 in Milwaukee. So I will say this, I might get teary-eyed, but this is what I was told at the Southern Center. You are not going to amount to anything. You would have to live in a group home in Milwaukee, and you would have to work in the shelter workshop. I don't work in the shelter workshop, and B, I don't live in a group home. So my advocacy skills, my advocacy, I think, started with Special Olympics too. So I've been all, my advocacy still started with Special Olympics. It was Athlete for Leaders, which me taking that course got me involved with advocacy. First thing I ever had to do is to talk to doctors it was in Maryland, and it was on mental retardation. Sorry, and I know that's a swear word. We do not use that word. But I had to practice saying this doctor's name, Dr. Lubowski, and Mrs. Schreiber was in the front with me. Oh no, she was in the front while I was talking to these doctors. Well, that took me farther. I got the Female Athlete Year Award. It's just all with advocacy, not to worry. Got the Female Athlete Award, Special Olympic Internationals with Dan Jansen, which was a speed skater. That took me all the way to the White House, to a special Christmas where I had to introduce a whole bunch of singers. White Cliffs had to sit on the table with Mrs. Clinton. And of course you're talking, so it was about, I didn't talk about politics. The coach, we flew my coach out, and I figured, why should I talk politics? Because it was not about, I can have that, listen to that on TV. But so I can get to the point here. So I sat on the head table with Mrs. Clinton, talked to her about cat and dog, met her daughter. Second thing was, second time I got to go to the White House to meet President Bush, sorry, I get nervous. President Bush. And that was, I gave him a gold medal that we had won in volleyball. and I got a kiss on the left cheek. So that's some of the. So then, in the meantime, I was on the DD council, so you know. So and I think I taught them a lot, and they taught me a lot. At the time, we didn't have terms. I think I served on that board 10 years until I wrote my book. And that was the best thing, I think, writing my book, A Spirit of a Champion. You, DD councils are on here. It's about my story, about living in the institution and what I had to go through. And there was one board member, Carolyn, and then her husband, Bob, helped me write the book. But I think, I know I'm going around because I know that because of how I'm in my head, this is how it happened. So first I learned some advocacy at the institution. Then I learned some advocacy with Special Olympics. And then I learned advocacy on the board, on our board, which took me a lot of places. Not only I had to grow up. Now I was 26 or 27. I was very immature to be on a DD board, only because I didn't have all the skills. And I don't remember when that board started, but I started, I don't know what year. I was on there for, like I said, 10 years. But I wasn't prepared, and I don't think the board was prepared for me to help me. You need, it was just not, it was very I don't remember, but what I like about our board now, you get trained. They have more materials for you. There was not a lot of materials for me. But me and a couple more people, we educated the board before I got off. And there's a lot of things that change, and now there's more good changes that happen. I would say that not only that we're hold accountable on the boards, you have to be held accountable. If you miss board meetings, then you need to call, or if you don't want to be on the board, you need to say that. But what I like about our board is I was also in Partners in Policy, which learned a lot about policy, and it's called Partners in Policy, which is, I think it's 6 weeks. No, it's more than that. Starts in September and ends in April or May. I can't remember, but that's okay. But anyway, it was very opening eye to me. You were assigned to a roommate. You had to get to know people. Went to the Capitol. But what it helped me to do is to learn how I wanted to vote. I already had I had to get my guardianship back to vote, so that happened. And then I wanted to make sure I knew about voting in the laws, and I'm on our voting coalition now. But I think the BP board that in Wisconsin is very in tune with their advocates. And also they help people first. I couldn't have not kept the doors open. I am an executive director. It takes a lot of people to help a person like me with an intellectual disability to try to keep the doors open and funding. So I have to say, I guess what I'm most proud of, at the center, nobody listened to me. They didn't care what I thought. Now that I'm the director, I'm the boss. In a nice way, I'm the boss. So what I say, I'm asked, Cindy, what do you think about this? Beth Sweeting, lovely woman, and Tammy, they will say, well, we need to have your signature or something on on a bill up at who signs it? Me. That makes me proud. Second thing, what makes me proud is that I make all the decisions for my organization. We have gotten a lot of grants because I said yes. I used to say no to everything. Everything was no, but I say yes. So from a person coming from an institution and now a director, and I wasn't going to amount to anything. You realize what I'm saying? Wasn't going to amount to anything. Well, I'm sitting to you right now with 50 states, as Wesley's saying, is that I'm telling you, I am a director, a person that came from the bottom and now is on the top with help. And I have a job coach. I have a fundraiser person. We have I have 2 fundraisers person, and we call operation manager. We changed the name because it didn't fit to be. She was not an office manager. She's out of the office with me and doing everything and traveling. So I just didn't think. But what I feel in my heart is that I could have been dead because I was told I wasn't going to live when I was born. And this gave me 24 hours. And then the foster mother tried to give me the burns. So every day I'm advocating for change, not only on DD boards, but in our community. We need to be in our community. We need, somebody said I should run for governor. No, thank you. Not my kind of job, but I'm saying is I probably could be anything I want. I'm very respected in Wisconsin, outside of the country. I've traveled all over the world, Greece, Holland, Alaska, drew Special Olympics, and I traveled to DC with our board. And I think the most important thing when I went to DC, I was on the same staff as Martin Luther King did his speech. So it is about freedom. We are no longer going to be quiet. We are going to have a voice. And I believe that if I could, I'm already a director now. I don't want to, I wouldn't mind seeing a person with an intellectual disability in the DD council have them be a director. I think I'm setting the tone for that, and I'm thankful for that. My friend, bless her heart, she passed away a couple of years ago, but she said you need to apply for people first. You need to apply for the job. And I said I don't have a college degree. What I found out about that, you don't need a college degree to be an advocate. You need to have a heart and you need to fight. And so that's what I think for myself. And I was kind of scared to talk today because it always brings up different kind of things with being in an institution. I might have came from a different place, but I'm telling you, I never knew I was going to ever be a director and leading the next director. There will be another director in this organization when I retire. I'm not retired until I'm ready to retire. Unless my board, and my board is all people with intellectual disabilities, our People First board. I love it. My president is my boss. I found that out. But we all work together. And so I don't know what else to say, that I'm proud to be on here representing both my DD council. And if it wasn't for the DD council, I don't know where our organization would be, People First, and where I would be. So we have to thank the people in Wisconsin. And I want to say something else. Well, I've been out of the state institution for 40 years, and guess what? in 2 weeks, we're going to have a party on May 31st. And a lot of people are coming to support me and celebrate me. 40 years on a Southern Center. And I can put under my belt, I am a director. And so I'm proud of myself. Living in my own apartment. I have my roommate is a cat. I just direct my services through Iris, but I'm able to do everything I want. And I'm free. I'm free. And Tiala is one of my heroes from Chicago. Did some stuff with her. And then of course all the rest of the people that I know. I know a few more people on here. And I don't know if I know Wesley very well, but I've heard of Wesley. So I just appreciate you letting me talk. And I appreciate you so much, everybody on here. So I'm sorry if I cry. So I'm gonna end this in that part of it.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Cindy, you want to try another question? We've got a
Yeah.
little time left.
Okay.
I think people would really like to hear your perspective. The question is, what advice can you offer DD councils as they support self-advocates in the self-advocacy movement in their state or country? What advice?
I would say give them a chance. Give them a chance. It doesn't matter if you can write good. I'm not a very good writer, not at all. But give them a chance, believe in them. And what all self-advocates want is to be accepted and loved. And I just feel that self-advocates, we don't want your pity. We don't want your charity. If we're going to be on your board, then treat us like we're on your board. As Ella was saying, is that, you know, as she was saying, and I was listening to her, I always learn something from her every time I hear her, is that it can happen. The dream is we're not going away, but it would be so nice to give somebody a chance, maybe coach. So I co-chair on our governor's board. I didn't think I was ready to be to be chair by myself. So I made a suggestion. Well, why couldn't we just be, co-chair together? And so they had to look up the bylaws and that. Yeah, we're co-chair. I'm co-chairing with our governor's board. So teach them things. Let them, what do you call that? Job shadow. So like Beth is wonderful. I have no complaints about my DD council. But is there learning to be done? Yes, there's a lot of learning. People don't think we could go to college. People didn't think we could get married or whatever. But I think the DD councils need to be patient. Maybe it might take the whatever you want to call you guys. It might take us maybe 5 weeks to learn something. You just have to be patient. But the main thing is we want to be respected. Respect us. Just respect us, and you'll get to respect and love back. I give a lot of love every day in my life. Is because I didn't get love when I was growing up. So every day, when I get off a phone, I'll say, I love you. But I guess my other advice is let them fail. Let them fall. Let them fall. They'll get back up and start over. I think the thing is, people are scared of us. I made lots of mistakes being a director, but I've also made a lot of good things in my life and learned so much. And so if I fall down, I need to pick myself back up, and you guys need to, support us. But the main thing I'm going to keep saying, love. We know somebody that loves us. We know we know people that don't, they're scared of it. They don't like us. And I'm going to tell you this, you may not like this, but I'm not worried about who likes me or who don't like me. Okay. I'm there to do my job. I'm not there to be, when I'm on duty, I have friends. I tell them when I'm on duty, I'm not your friend, I'm the director. And I've had to make some very important decisions, some decisions for our organization. So I'm sorry, I can't be your friend and be the director at the same time. So when I'm to like today, I'm on here with you guys, I'm on duty. I'm not your friend. I like Tia and some more on here, but I'm not your friend at the moment. I am on duty. So you have to understand that. You have to separate. I learned to separate. And then, I think the DD councils know that we have a lot of friends in advocacy, but you have to definitely say, okay, when you're on duty, I'm sorry, I'm not your friend. I love my DD council and I have some people on there, but when I'm on duty and I know they're on duty, we're not friends. We're colleagues. I learned that word, colleagues. Off of duty, maybe after work and you want to go out for, I go out for soda. I know people go out for drinks. I don't drink, but I go out for alcohol. You can drink and I'll go out for a soda. So, but that's when, we have to have some boundaries. And the second thing, you have to set boundaries. The DD councils have to set boundaries. There's a certain time you should call somebody. So I don't call Beth after hours. I don't call anybody after 8 o'clock. And definitely, if it's an emergency, it has to, if I need to talk to Beth, I'll wait till she's back in her office. Or that's our director. So that's why I'm sending Beth, because she's worked all day. And the last thing she wants to hear is some more things with work. So, and I think DD councils have to set boundaries. You can give your number out, but you can say, okay, I'm sorry, I don't answer my phone after 5 o'clock. I'm off duty. I think the other thing you have to set boundaries with is that you know what's expected of the director. What's expected of the director. The director needs to make sure the person knows what's expected of them. And so I think sometimes, I don't want anybody feeling sorry for me, because we just have to. If we want to be treated like a real person, then you DD councils have to treat us like real people. That's what I say. We are all real people. And I would say some more diversity on all DD councils. We need more diversity. We need diversity. We need all different nationalities and we need more, because Latinos, whatever, we just need that. We got a pretty thing on our board, but we still need more. And then I'm thinking too, we need a youth board along with the DD council. So you have a DD board. That's been my dream. So you have a youth board. I forgot her name was talking. So you have a youth board that, that will report to the big DD board. So you have a DD board, you're following me. So, and then you have the youth board, and the youth have different things than we would have, grown-ups, as they call it. Youth are still learning, but I think it needs to happen. It is a lot of work.
Thank you, Cindy.
You're
Those
welcome.
are great thoughts. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
very much. I'm going to turn it over to Amy and Cheryl now for question and answers.
Great. Well, if anybody has any questions for any of our speakers, Lillian, Wesley, Tia, Cindy, go ahead and put them in the chat or in the Q&A box right now, or you can raise your hand. We have time if somebody wants to ask a question. Kristen?
Amy, thank you. I don't have a question as much as I have a comment. First of all, I want to give a shout out to our chair from New York, Dave Dole. Thank you, Dave, for facilitating this. But I just so much want to thank all of the participants. It was, as a relatively new executive director, I've been around New York State government for a long time in a whole host of capacities, but this is my first few months here at the New York Council on Developmental Disabilities. I just want to say how helpful it is to hear your various perspectives, your own stories about how you found your voices, became advocates. But it's so helpful to hear your own perspectives, how you have interacted with fellow council members, with council staff. So I just want to say thank you all for taking the time this afternoon to participate and to share your, your backgrounds and your experience and expertise with all of us here. It's very helpful.
Thanks, Kristen. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Or like Cheryl just put in the chat, you can feel free to put your takeaways in the chat.
And Amy, I know I heard a consistent theme across all of our presenters today with opportunities and how councils are in this really unique position to really make sure that opportunities are presented to people with developmental disabilities. I also heard a theme about respect and listening. And so many times we say we do all of that, but our behaviors sometimes don't kind of demonstrate that we're doing that. And I really appreciate, I think, Tia, you mentioned, and although this is kind of operational, but you mentioned like when councils give out grants or put money out for people to apply for. And we did some really a lot of work on cultural competence last week, but your feedback is not lost on at least me in thinking that also includes people with developmental disabilities and how we really need to make sure that the community is included, that we're paying attention to access, language, culture, all of that stuff still applies. And I do think that we have to be intentional with some of our council's work. So I appreciate each one of you just brought something unique to the table. So thank you on behalf of NACDD and ITAC. I know that we certainly have some great takeaways that we will be putting back out as well.
That's a great wrap up.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you still have some, we still have some time. We don't bite, we can answer. At least not today.
That's right, Tia. You're right. We do not bite.
Well, most people are just putting in the chat about how wonderful the session was. But Jackie has her hand raised. Jackie?
Hi, thank you so much for this excellent session. And Cindy, this question is actually for you. I know one of our council members was interested in writing a book about their life. And I just want to kind of hear about, that journey. How are you able to do that? And what were some of the steps that you took?
Oh, oh boy. It was a long journey. I spent a lot of time at the Whitefish Bay Library where I live. But you know, you got to get all the facts. You know, he got some stories from when I was at the center, and you know, everything. I think it took a year to write the book, about a year. But that book has not. Oh, that book also changed my life, and I'll tell you why. First of all, because I guess I was willing to write it. I wasn't willing at first, but after the book was all done, um, it's just I went to so many schools to talk to. The book is written for 4th and 5th graders, so we went all over the state of Wisconsin. I mean, way up and way down. I mean, Wisconsin's huge. But lots of school kids asked a lot of questions. And the most questions I always got, are you married? There was a lot of children in these schools were in foster care. I was in the foster care system. And, you know, and they had some of them asked, how can I get out of the foster care center? You know, and I said, you know, you have to advocate. You know, they were pretty 4th graders. They didn't, you know, but the book went it's international. It's been international. It's overseas, my book, to some, but it was a journey, and it was a lot of things brought up about my child life and teenage life. But that book has taught people you can come from, you can come down, you can come from a bad life, and you can achieve something. I didn't even know. I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot about being an author, but now there's going to be a second book. Now the second book is going to be on what kind of life I'm living now. So, but it is a lot of work. I would say you got to have patience, lots of time in the library or wherever you think. I suggest she write the book. And then this historical society actually published the book. And it's for people. Oh yeah, Phil put that in for you. And it was for people that were dead. And that was Curly Lambeau. Oh God, I forgot some more, but Curly Lambeau but was the first living person that they wrote the book on, and then they wrote one on my league. Remember the baseball, my own league or something, whatever that was. But I was the first one, so I'm alive. So I tell her you can take my information down you can get it from me, or you can, and I can. Now the 2 people that wrote the book, they both are retired now. But you'll have to have somebody that really knows the person and has a lot of patience to write the book. It's just not you sit down and write a book. Now, my second book I'm writing with Jenny, and what we decided to do, since I'm not a good writer, I have my phone, and then you know how I text she'll send me a question out. Last week she sent me how it is to be a director. So I texted her what I thought how it is to be a director. So that's how we're going to write the next book. It's just easier, and then we don't have to sit in the library. So she knows how to talk to her phone, to text. We didn't have a cell phone when I think I wrote that book. So I say, go for it. She wants to talk to me, you know, I'd be glad to talk to her.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
You're
Cindy.
welcome.
I just want to add one more thing before we go, is
Please.
that you could see that everybody on the call who spoke has gotten many opportunities to do many great, wonderful things. And there are so many more people out there that could have those opportunities if you just believe in people and give them that opportunity to speak up and to be a part of things. And the best part I love about my job now is that I get to go to different places and to teach other self-advocates about the importance of speaking up and living their dream, and to talk about supports that they can have, supports out there that can help them. You know, if somebody doesn't listen to them, keep going to the next person until somebody listens to you, and to keep that dream alive. And the best part I like about all of my advocacy work is helping somebody speak up for the first time,
Yep.
and really encouraging them to talk about their dreams and living their dreams and their goals. And being a part of that support to as a self-advocate, and watching them do it for the first time and knowing that you had something to do with it. That's the most amazing part as a leader, that you learn your self-advocacy skills and you have all that support behind you, but then you share it with other people with disabilities and teach them how to do that and give them the resources to help fulfill their dreams. So I think by all of us working together and making that happen, we can make it a better place in the world for everybody.
Yep.
Here.
I don't mean to be rude, but I have to jump off because I have another appointment, if that's okay with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Cindy.
having me. You're welcome.
And thank you for those good thoughts, Tia. Any other questions or observations? Okay, don't
Wesley,
forget about oh, I'm sorry.
Wesley has his hand raised.
Wesley, please.
I want to say that everybody can be a self-advocate, and we all have strengths, we all have things we're good at, and I'll just chat with somebody that there's so many opportunities out there. So inspire the people, and when you serve your council, remember we're doing a meeting, and there gonna be some people that gonna like us, there gonna be some people on council we might agree with. We're just doing it for the good people with disabilities, and remember, people with disabilities, without people without disabilities, they would have a job. So we're number one.
Thank you, Wesley. Any other thoughts, questions? All right, don't forget the OIDD Institute continues on Thursday. In closing, I'd like to thank our presenters for doing an excellent job of helping the rest of us understand better what they would like their council experience to be and how they would like to be trained to become better leaders. And I'd like to express my appreciation to all of you who joined in this session to understand how we all can contribute to their gifts and dreams by engaging and leading in their council culture as we all write our stories together. Thank you for your attention today.